Ma'am, step away from the register for a moment. We need to speak with you.
I'm working right now. Is there a problem?
We're conducting a verification. Please step aside.
Verification of what? I've worked here for years.
Are you a United States citizen?
Yes, of course I am. I'm from New York, born and raised. Why are you asking me this here?
Documentation confirming your identity and authorization to work?
Yes,
The afternoon light filtered through Brooklyn Heights Market's wide storefront windows that Wednesday, casting long shadows across the checkout lanes. Security cameras positioned at 4 strategic angles were recording in high definition, capturing every moment of what was about to happen at Register 4, where 32-year-old Theodore Amara was scanning groceries, completely unaware that in less than 3 minutes, federal agents would place her in handcuffs and escort her out like a criminal. These cameras would later provide the irrefutable evidence that would shock a nation and lead to one of the largest civil rights settlements in recent history. Before we go any further, where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. I need to know who's hearing Theodore's story because what happened to her could happen anywhere in America. And if you're just finding this channel, subscribe right now. What I'm about to show you will change how you think about citizenship, racial profiling, and what it really means to be American in your own country. You're going to want to see how this ends. Theodore Amara had been working at Brooklyn Heights Market since she was 26 years old. It was a well-established neighborhood grocery store in one of New York's most diverse boroughs, the kind of place where regulars chat with cashiers and everyone knows the best day for fresh bread. She'd started on the morning shift, quickly proved herself reliable and personable, and had become one of the store's most dependable employees. Customers requested her lane. Management praised her work ethic. She'd been Employee of the Month 4 times in 6 years. She'd grown up in Crown Heights, born at Brooklyn Methodist Hospital to working-class parents. Her father, James, a postal carrier who'd walked the same route for 3 decades, and her mother, Patricia, a public school librarian in Bed-Stuy, who believed education could change lives. Theodore had attended New York public schools, graduated from Brooklyn Technical High School, and earned her degree from Medgar Evers College with dreams of becoming a social worker. But when her father suffered a stroke in 2018, those dreams went on hold. Graduate school could wait. Her family needed help with medical bills, with keeping their small house, with staying afloat. Theodore took the full-time position at Brooklyn Heights Market, just temporarily, she told herself. 6 years later, she was still there. But she'd made peace with it. She was good at what she did. She had her own studio apartment on Nostrand Avenue. She had a savings account slowly growing toward grad school. She had a life she'd built with her own hands, paying taxes, following every rule, being the kind of citizen her parents taught her to be. That Wednesday morning in February, Theodore woke at 6 a.m., made her coffee, reviewed her monthly budget, and took the Q train to work just like she had 1,000 times before. She clocked in at 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes early as always. She took her position at Register 4, one of the main checkout lanes, and settled into the comfortable rhythm of her shift, scanning items, greeting customers, making the small talk that turned transactions into human connections. At 3:17 p.m., that rhythm shattered. 2 people entered through the automatic doors. They weren't carrying shopping bags. They weren't pushing carts. Agent Charles Rivera, tall, imposing, with a shaved head and a navy suit that screamed federal authority, walked alongside Agent Marie Bradley, whose intense gaze swept across the checkout area with calculated precision. Their badges were visible on their belts. Their purpose was clear in the way they moved, deliberate, systematic, focused. They weren't there to shop. They walked past Register 2, where Emma, a white college student, was ringing up a customer. They walked past Register 6, where Carlos, a naturalized citizen from Colombia, was processing a transaction. They walked past Register 8, where Jennifer, another white cashier, was helping an elderly man with his groceries. They walked directly to Register 4, to Theodore Amara. And in the next 60 seconds, Theodore's entire understanding of her place in America, her citizenship, her rights, her safety, would be violently ripped away in front of everyone she knew, captured in crystal-clear detail by cameras that would later force a nation to confront an uncomfortable truth. Citizenship has never been enough to protect Black Americans from those who see them as guilty until proven innocent. This is the story of what happened next. Theodore Amara came into this world on August 15, 1993, at Brooklyn Methodist Hospital, £7, 3 ounces, born to James and Patricia Amara at 2:34 in the morning. Her father had been a postal carrier for the USPS, walking the same Crown Heights route for 3 decades, rain or shine, building calves of steel and a reputation for never missing a day. Her mother was a librarian at PS 289 in Bed-Stuy, the kind who knew every kid's reading level by heart and kept banned books on a special shelf behind her desk for the students brave enough to ask. Theodore grew up in a rent-controlled apartment on St. John's Place, where the sounds of Brooklyn filled every corner, sirens and laughter, arguments and music, the eternal symphony of a neighborhood that never quite slept. She attended public schools, played basketball at the park on Sterling, and spent summers at her grandmother's place in Queens. After high school, she enrolled at Medgar Evers College with a clear vision. She'd become a social worker, help families like hers navigate the systems that seemed designed to grind people down. But in 2018, life rewrote her plans in a single afternoon. Her father collapsed at the post office. Stroke. Massive. The kind that steals a man's speech and leaves medical bills stacked like accusatory letters. Theodore was in her 2nd year of graduate applications. She withdrew them all. Brooklyn Heights Market was hiring. The pay wasn't spectacular, but it was steady, and they offered health insurance her father desperately needed. Theodore told herself it was temporary, just until they got back on their feet. 6 years later, she was still scanning groceries at Register 4, but something had shifted inside her. She'd stopped calling it temporary. This was her life now, and she'd decided that was okay. She was exceptional at what she did. Mrs. Kowalski always asked for her lane. Mr. Chen, the store manager, had pulled her aside last month with news that made her mother cry with pride. Assistant manager position, coming this spring. Theodore had started looking at bigger apartments, ones with actual bedrooms. That Wednesday morning, her alarm went off at 6 a.m. She made coffee in the French press her mother had given her for Christmas, sat at her small table reviewing her budget spreadsheet — she was saving $400 a month now — and felt something close to contentment. The Q train was crowded but moving. She clocked in at 8:47 a.m., 13 minutes early, just like always. Register 4, her station, her small kingdom of beeps and plastic bags and human connection, the normal world, the one that was about to detonate. At 3:17 p.m, the automatic doors whispered open and 2 people walked in who looked nothing like the typical Wednesday afternoon crowd at Brooklyn Heights Market. Theodore was mid-transaction with Mrs. Kowalski, a retired English teacher who came in every Wednesday, like clockwork for her weekly groceries. Always the same items, always paying in exact change counted from a small leather purse. The store had that comfortable hum of moderate activity. Register 2 had Emma, a Hunter College student working her way through sophomore year. Register 6 had Carlos, who'd come from Bogota a decade ago and now had citizenship papers he kept laminated in his wallet. Register 8 had Jennifer, who'd been there longer than anyone and knew the produce codes by heart. The 2 who entered weren't carrying reusable bags, weren't studying the sale flyers. Agent Charles Rivera moved like a man who'd never questioned his right to any space he occupied. Tall, broad-shouldered, shaved head gleaming under the fluorescent lights, jaw set in permanent authority. His navy suit was sharply pressed, and the badge on his belt caught the light deliberately. Agent Marie Bradley walked half a step behind him, shorter but radiating an intensity that made shoppers instinctively pull their carts aside. Her dark eyes swept the checkout lanes with calculated precision. They didn't pause at the organic produce display, didn't glance at the bakery's fresh bread. They cut straight through the store with the kind of purposeful stride that turns heads and tightens stomachs. Theodore registered their approach peripherally but kept scanning. Campbell's tomato soup. Beep. Barilla penny. Beep. Her hands moved on autopilot, the rhythm of 6 years imprinted in muscle memory. "Step away from the register, ma'am." Theodore looked up. Agent Rivera stood directly across from her, badge now in his hand like an accusation. "Excuse me, I'm helping a customer." I said step away. Now. His voice had that flat cop quality, the tone that doesn't ask, doesn't negotiate, just expects immediate compliance. Mrs. Kowalski's weathered hands froze on her purse. "What's going on?" Agent Bradley moved forward, positioning herself between the elderly woman and Theodore. "Ma'am, please move aside. This doesn't concern you." Theodore's heart kicked into a faster rhythm, that primal response when authority targets you without explanation. "Sir, what is this about? I'm working—" "We need to see your papers," Rivera said, and those 4 words carried the weight of a threat Theodore had only heard about in other people's nightmares. "Immigration compliance check." The words detonated in her chest. "Papers? I'm from New York. I work here. What papers?" Bradley's expression remained frozen, professional, terrifying in its absence of humanity. "Employment authorization, social security card, government-issued ID." "I have a driver's license in my bag, but I don't understand." "Ma'am, if you don't comply, we'll have to escort you out forcibly." Panic bled into Theodore's voice, raising it half an octave. "I'm from New York. I was born here." Rivera's hand drifted to his hip where handcuffs hung like a promise. "That's what they all say. Come with us." The store had gone silent. Conversations died mid-sentence. Shopping carts stopped moving. Everyone was watching Theodore Amara's life split into before and after. "Please," her voice cracked into pieces. "Someone call my manager. Someone help me." David Chen came sprinting from the back office, his face flushed, still holding the inventory clipboard he'd been working on. "What's happening here? Theodore, what's going on?" Agent Rivera turned with the mechanical precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. His expression remained impassive, blank as concrete. "Federal agents, immigration enforcement. We need to verify this employee's work authorization." "She's authorized. She's worked here for 6 years. David was breathless, incredulous, his voice climbing. "I have all her documents on file. Social security card, I-9, direct deposit information." "Then you won't mind if we verify," Bradley said, her tone ice cold. "She's a U.S. citizen." David's voice echoed through the store, bouncing off the high ceilings. "Let me get her file. We'll verify that at the facility." A man in a charcoal business suit stepped forward from the growing crowd of stunned shoppers. His voice was calm, but carried unmistakable authority. "Excuse me. I'm Lawrence Whitman, attorney. On what probable cause are you detaining this woman?" Rivera didn't even glance his direction. "Federal immigration matter. Step back, sir." "That's not probable cause. Has she committed a crime? Is there a warrant?" "This is a compliance check." "Based on what?" Whitman pressed, his lawyer instincts cutting through the bureaucratic doublespeak. "Why this employee specifically? I see 4 other cashiers working right now. Why aren't you checking their papers?" The question hung in the air like an indictment. Everyone in that store knew the answer. Register 2, Emma, white. Register 6, Carlos, Latino but light-skinned. Register 8, Jennifer, white. Register 4, Theodore Amara, black. Agent Bradley's jaw tightened, a micro-expression that betrayed irritation. "Sir, obstruction of federal officers is a crime." Theodore felt hands grip her arms, Rivera's fingers firm and unyielding, treating her body like property to be moved. "Ma'am, you need to come with us. Now." "No!" Theodore tried to pull away, her voice breaking into something raw and desperate. "David, call someone. Call the police." "We are the police," Rivera said quietly, and the words carried more menace than any shout could have. The handcuffs clicked around her wrists with a sound that would echo in Theodore's nightmares for years. Theodore Amara, who had never received so much as a parking ticket, who paid her taxes and voted in every election and believed the system would protect her if she just followed the rules. She was being arrested in front of Mrs. Kowalski, who was openly weeping now, in front of Emma, who had her phone out filming with shaking hands, in front of Carlos, who stood frozen behind Register 6 with his face drained of colour, in front of everyone she knew. "I'm an American citizen," Theodore said, her voice shattering into pieces. "I'm an American citizen." Nobody stopped them as they walked her toward the automatic doors that had swallowed her normal life and would spit out only trauma in return. The drive to the federal detention facility in Queens took 47 minutes through traffic that felt both too fast and agonizingly slow. Theodore sat in the back of the unmarked black SUV, hands cuffed behind her, metal biting into her wrists, unable to wipe the tears streaming down her face and dripping off her chin. Agent Bradley drove with mechanical efficiency. Agent Rivera sat in the passenger seat, typing on a tablet, his face illuminated by the blue glow, never once looking back at the woman whose life he'd just destroyed. "Where are you taking me?" Theodore asked, her voice hoarse from crying and screaming. Silence. Just the hum of the engine and the rhythmic click of Rivera's typing. "I want to call my lawyer. I have rights." "You'll be processed," Bradley said without emotion, without even glancing in the rearview mirror, like Theodore was cargo, not a person. The facility was a grey, concrete building surrounded by chain-link fencing topped with coiled razor wire, the kind of place designed to kill hope on sight. Theodore was escorted through a side entrance marked Detainee Intake, down fluorescent-lit hallways that smelled of industrial cleaner and human fear, a scent she would never forget. Processing was methodical, dehumanizing, designed to strip away everything that made you a person. 4:45 p.m. Handcuffs removed, leaving angry red marks on her wrists. Personal belongings confiscated and placed in a plastic bin, with her name misspelled on masking tape. Phone, wallet, keys, watch, earrings. Her identity reduced to inventory. 5:02 p.m. Fingerprinting. Each finger pressed against the cold glass scanner, while a bored technician with coffee breath read from a laminated script about her rights, words that meant nothing when you were already caged. 5:18 p.m. Photographs, front view, side profile. Like a criminal, like someone who belonged in a database of threats. 5:35 p.m. Medical screening. A tired nurse asked if she had any pre-existing conditions, allergies, medications. Theodore could barely form words. "When can I call someone?" After processing. 6 p.m. Moved to a holding cell, concrete walls painted institutional beige, a metal bench bolted to the floor, a stainless steel toilet in the corner with no seat, no privacy. 3 other women were already there. One Latina woman staring at the floor, one South Asian woman with her arms wrapped around herself, one white woman who looked Eastern European, eyes red from crying. Nobody spoke. Nobody made eye contact. They'd all learned the same lesson. This place swallows your voice. Theodore sat on the cold bench, hugging herself, replaying the moment over and over like a horror film stuck on loop. What did I do wrong? What gave them the right? The answer was sickeningly, devastatingly clear. Her skin colour. Nothing more, nothing less. At 10:17 p.m., 6 hours and 17 minutes after being taken from her register, a guard finally opened the cell door with a metallic clang that made all 4 women flinch. "Amara, you get your phone call." Theodore's legs were shaky as she stood, pins and needles shooting through her feet from sitting motionless for so long. She followed the guard down another fluorescent hallway to a wall-mounted phone that looked like it hadn't been updated since 1985. Her hands trembled violently as she dialed her mother's number, the digits she'd memorized in 5th grade, before cell phones made memory obsolete. The phone rang twice, 3 times. "Hello?" Patricia Amara's voice was cautious. Unfamiliar numbers at this hour never brought good news. "Mom!" The word came out as a broken sob, all the terror and humiliation of the past 6 hours compressed into one syllable. "Theodore? Baby? What's wrong? Where are you?" "They arrested me, Mum. Federal agents. They think I'm..." She couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't speak the accusation that she was somehow illegal in the city where she'd been born. "What? Who arrested you? Where are you?" "Some detention center in Queens. They took me from work. They wouldn't listen. I told them I'm American. I showed them." Her voice shattered completely, dissolving into sobs that made her whole body shake. Patricia Amara's voice transformed, hardening into something Theodore had never heard from her soft-spoken librarian mother, pure righteous fury that could burn through concrete walls. "Don't say another word to anyone. Do you understand me? Not a word. We're coming. Your father and I are coming right now." "Mum, I'm scared." "Listen to me, baby. You are Theodore Amara. You were born in Brooklyn Methodist Hospital on August 15th, 1993. You are my daughter, and you are an American citizen. They have no right. No right." In the background, Theodore heard her father's voice, groggy with sleep and confusion. "What's happening? Patricia, what?" "James, get dressed, now. Our daughter's been arrested." The phone call lasted 3 minutes and 42 seconds. When the guard escorted Theodore back to the cell, she curled up on the cold metal bench and cried until her body had nothing left to give. No more tears, no more sound, just empty, hollow grief. Her parents would later describe the drive from Crown Heights to Queens as the longest 53 minutes of their lives. Every red light an eternity, every mile marker a reminder that their daughter was in a cage. Thursday morning, 7:23 a.m., Emma Chen, no relation to manager David, was sipping coffee in her dorm room at Hunter College, staring at her phone screen with growing disbelief. Emma was 19, a college sophomore working part-time to pay for textbooks, and like most of her generation, she was extremely online. The video she'd filmed yesterday, her hands shaking so badly the footage had a slight tremor, had been uploaded to Twitter, TikTok and Instagram within an hour of Theodore being dragged out in handcuffs. Emma had tagged every civil rights organization she could think of, every news outlet, every activist account with a significant following. The caption was simple, devastating. Black cashier arrested at work for immigration check, while white cashiers ignored. This is America. #JusticeForTheodore. By 8 a.m., #JusticeForTheodore was trending nationally, climbing past celebrity gossip and political scandals to become the #1 topic on Twitter. By 9 a.m., Brooklyn Heights Market's corporate office was in full crisis mode, phones ringing off the hook, PR team scrambling. By 10 a.m., CEO Rachel Stern made a decision that would change everything, release the security footage. All of it, unedited. The high-definition surveillance video was devastating in its crystal clarity, impossible to spin or dismiss. 4 camera angles showed Agents Rivera and Bradley entering the store at 3:17 p.m., walking past Register 2 where Emma stood, white, blonde, scanning groceries, without a glance. Past Register 6 where Carlos worked, Latino but lighter-skinned, without pause. Past Register 8 where Jennifer rang up customers, white, middle-aged, without hesitation. They walked directly to Register 4, to Theodore Amara. Black woman, green employee vest, mid-transaction. The audio captured every word with brutal precision. Step away from the register. I'm from New York. I work here. That's what they all say. The video showed David Chen running from the back office, frantically offering to produce employment documents. It showed attorney Lawrence Whitman stepping forward, questioning probable cause with the calm authority of someone who knew the law. It showed Theodore's hands being wrenched behind her back, metal handcuffs clicking into place. It showed her face, the progression from confusion to fear to humiliation playing out in real time for millions to witness. The media reaction was immediate and volcanic. CNN. Video, black woman detained at work in alleged racial profiling. MSNBC. Federal agents accused of targeting black cashier while ignoring others. The New York Times. Brooklyn cashier's detention raises questions about immigration enforcement tactics. Local New York stations ran the story on continuous loop. Civil rights organizations issued scathing statements. The ACLU announced they were monitoring the situation closely and considering legal action. By noon, a protest had formed outside the Queens detention facility, dozens of people holding signs that read "Born in Brooklyn, detained in America," and "Being black is not probable cause." Theodore knew none of this. She was still in that holding cell with concrete walls and a metal bench, unaware that her face was on every news channel in the country, unaware that her nightmare was becoming a national reckoning. Thursday morning, 6:47 a.m., James and Patricia Amara arrived at the Queens detention facility after a sleepless night of frantic driving, carrying a manila folder thick with documents they'd pulled from file cabinets with shaking hands. Birth certificate from Brooklyn Methodist Hospital, the paper yellowed but still crisp, showing their daughter's tiny footprints from August 15, 1993. Social Security card issued when she was 2 weeks old. Childhood vaccination records from the pediatrician on Nostrand Avenue. Report cards from PS 289 showing straight A's in reading. High school diploma from Brooklyn Technical High School. College transcripts from Medgar Evers. Theodore's entire documented life in America, reduced to paper proof that she existed, that she belonged. "We're here to see our daughter, Theodore Amara," James said to the woman behind bulletproof glass, his voice steady despite the terror coursing through him. "She was brought here yesterday. She's a US citizen. We have all her documents." "Name again?" The woman didn't look up from her computer screen. "Theodore Amara, Amara." The woman typed with deliberate slowness, each keystroke an eternity. "She's still in processing." "Processing? She's been here for 15 hours. Patricia's voice was sharp, librarian composure cracking. "We have her birth certificate. She was born in Brooklyn. Ma'am, I can't release information about ongoing cases." James carefully laid the documents on the metal counter, spreading them out like evidence at trial. "Please, just show these to whoever is in charge. Her birth certificate clearly shows." "Sir, you'll need to go through official verification channels." "Official channels?" Patricia's control finally snapped, her voice echoing off the concrete walls. "My daughter is an American citizen being held like a criminal. These are the official documents." "Ma'am, if you don't calm down, I'll have to call security." James gently pulled his wife back, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. 30 years as a postal worker, 30 years of dealing with bureaucracy and systemic indifference had taught him a bitter lesson. Anger, however justified, however righteous, only makes things worse for black families trying to navigate white institutions. "Please," he said quietly, swallowing his rage. "Can we at least speak to whoever is handling her case? Processing detainees don't get visitors during verification period." "How long is the verification period?" "Depends on the case." "Can you at least tell her we're here, that her parents are here?" The woman's expression didn't change, not hostile, not sympathetic, just blank, bureaucratic indifference. "I can make a note in the file." 2 security guards appeared from a side door, hands resting on their belts. "Sir, ma'am, you need to leave the facility." Patricia was shaking now, fury and helplessness warring in her body. James gathered the rejected documents, his daughter's proof of existence deemed insufficient by people who'd already decided she didn't belong, and guided his wife toward the exit. In the parking lot, under harsh fluorescent lights that made everything look sickly and wrong, Patricia broke down completely. "They wouldn't even look at them, James. They wouldn't even look." James held his wife, 33 years of marriage giving him the strength to be her anchor, even as his own tears finally fell. Then he pulled out his phone with trembling hands and searched for civil rights attorneys in New York. The first name that came up, Lawrence Whitman, the same man who challenged the agents in the grocery store. James dialed before he could second-guess himself. Friday morning, 9 a.m., Brooklyn Federal Courthouse. Lawrence Whitman had worked through the night, fueled by rage and coffee, producing a 47-page writ of habeas corpus that documented every constitutional violation committed against Theodore Amara with surgical precision. The hearing was assigned to Judge Katherine Ericson, a former civil rights attorney who'd spent 12 years on the bench, building a reputation for 2 things: unshakable composure and absolute intolerance for government overreach. The courtroom was packed beyond capacity. James and Patricia Amara sat in the front row, holding hands so tightly their knuckles had gone white. Media filled the back rows, cameras ready. Outside, protesters chanted Theodore's name. Theodore was brought in wearing an orange detention facility jumpsuit that swallowed her frame. She looked exhausted, hollow, broken in ways that would take years to repair. When she saw her parents, she mouthed, "I'm sorry." Patricia shook her head firmly, tears streaming. "You have nothing to be sorry for." Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael Hammond represented the government. He looked profoundly uncomfortable, shuffling papers he clearly wished he'd never been assigned to defend. Judge Ericson wasted no time. "Mr. Hammond, explain to me why Mrs. Amara is before this court." "Your Honor, this is a routine immigration compliance matter." "I didn't ask about immigration. I asked why Ms. Amara specifically is being detained." Hammond shuffled papers desperately. The agents conducting the compliance check had reason to believe. What reason? That Ms. Amara might be in violation of immigration laws. Based on what? Silence stretched like a chasm. "Mr. Hammond, I'm asking you a direct question. What specific evidence did Agents Rivera and Bradley have that Miss Amara was in the country illegally?" The agent's professional judgment, their professional judgment that a black woman must be undocumented. Judge Ericson's voice was ice that could cut through steel. Because I've reviewed the evidence, Mr. Hammond. I've watched the surveillance footage. I see them walk past 4 other cashiers, 3 white, 1 Latino, without stopping. They went directly to Ms. Amara. Why? Your Honor, I can't speak to the agent's specific. Then let me speak to the facts. Judge Ericson held up Theodore's birth certificate like Exhibit A in a murder trial. Ms. Amara was born at Brooklyn Methodist Hospital on August 15, 1993. She attended New York public schools. She graduated from Medgar Evers College. She's had a valid driver's license since 2011. She's been employed at Brooklyn Heights Market for 6 years, with full Social Security deductions, federal tax payments, and legal employment authorization. She paused, letting the facts settle like an indictment. This document was available to be verified within minutes of her detention. Instead, she's been held for... She checked the clock. 43 hours. Mr. Hammond, can you explain why verifying a Brooklyn birth certificate took 43 hours? Hammond looked at his co-counsel desperately, finding no lifeline. Your Honor, the verification process is what exactly? A phone call to the New York Department of Health, a database check, both of which could have been completed in under an hour. There are protocols that apparently don't apply when the detainee is white. Judge Ericson's words landed like a gavel slamming on injustice. I've reviewed similar cases in this district. The average verification time for a claimed U.S. citizen is 4 to 8 hours. Ms. Amara has been held for 5 times that long. The only difference I can see, Mr. Hammond, is her skin color. The courtroom was absolutely silent, every breath held. Ms. Amara is a United States citizen. She has never committed a crime. She was arrested at her workplace without probable cause, without a warrant, and without even the basic dignity of having her documents examined. This is not immigration enforcement. This is harassment. Judge Ericson's gaze was withering enough to wilt steel. I'm ordering Ms. Amara's immediate release within 2 hours. The government will return all her possessions. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full investigation into Agents Rivera and Bradley's conduct, including a review of every detention they've made in the past 5 years. If this court finds a pattern of racial profiling, I will personally recommend federal charges. She looked directly at Theodore, her voice softening for the first time. Ms. Amara, on behalf of a system that has failed you spectacularly, I apologize. What happened to you should never happen to any American citizen. Friday, 1:34 p.m., Theodore walked out of the Queen's detention facility into bright winter sunlight that hurt her eyes after 52 hours of fluorescent hell. She'd been held for 2 days, 2 hours, and 17 minutes. Her parents were waiting at the chain-link fence. Patricia ran to her daughter, holding her like she'd never let go, like she could physically shield her from everything that had already happened. James wrapped his arms around both of them, tears streaming down his face, this man who'd carried mail through blizzards without crying, now sobbing openly. "You're free, baby," Patricia whispered into Theodore's hair. "You're free, and they're going to pay." The protesters cheered, dozens of strangers who'd stood vigil holding signs that said, "Born in Brooklyn, detained in America." Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters shouted questions that became an indistinguishable roar. Lawrence Whitman stepped forward, shielding the family with his body and his authority. Ms. Amara will not be making a statement at this time. However, we will be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security, Agents Charles Rivera and Marie Bradley, and the City of New York for unlawful detention, racial profiling, and violation of Ms. Amara's 4th and 14th Amendment rights. Over the following months, the case became a landmark that law schools would study for decades. The investigation Judge Ericson ordered revealed a pattern so damning it seemed almost impossible. Agents Rivera and Bradley had detained 23 people in the past 3 years. 21 were people of color. 19 were U.S. citizens. The numbers told a story no lawyer could spin away. Both agents were placed on administrative leave, then quietly resigned before facing termination and potential criminal charges. The civil rights lawsuit went to trial 14 months later. The jury, 7 women, 5 men, representing Brooklyn's beautiful diversity, deliberated for 6 hours. Their verdict: $5.2 million in damages, $500,000 for emotional distress and psychological trauma, $700,000 for loss of income and future earning capacity. Theodore had been forced to quit her job, unable to walk into Brooklyn Heights Market without panic attacks. $4 million in punitive damages, a message that racial profiling would not be tolerated, that citizenship actually meant something. Standing on the courthouse steps after the verdict, Theodore spoke publicly for the first time since that Wednesday afternoon when her life had shattered. For 52 hours I wasn't Theodore Amara. I wasn't someone's daughter, someone's friend, someone's employee. I was just a black woman who they decided didn't belong in her own country. But I'm here to say, I do belong. We all belong. And if my case helps make sure this never happens to anyone else, then maybe, just maybe, something good came from the worst experience of my life. The crowd erupted in applause that echoed off the federal courthouse like thunder. Lawrence Whitman stood beside her, professional to the end, but allowing himself a small smile that said justice, however delayed, had finally arrived.